Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of the Rush Hour podcast. We have a big breaking story to get to. New proof has come in the Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds versus Justin Baldoni campaign, dueling lawsuits, both sides accusing the other of smearing. Well, this new proof, one commentator says this is a lengthy, coordinated collusion between all. Blake's side says, oh, we didn't leak to the New York Times. It must have been Justin's side. And then, of course, information came out that mid-December, a week or so before the story went live, there was metadata, there was evidence that Justin Baldoni's photos were already being uploaded to their servers. Well, now that evidence wasn't for mid-December, it was for, get this, October. So I'm going to get into the good work being done by our vigilante investigators and what this means moving forward for Justin's case versus Blake's. It's almost like Deal or No Deal Island. Have you ever watched this show? If you guess that the case is going to be a low number, and it is a low number, then all of a sudden the banker has to pay you more because it's all about odds. Well, I say that because it's a fun show. Joe Manganiello is a beautiful man. I say that in good style. I say that because this type of evidence just makes the price tag go higher and higher for Justin if he's going to let her settle. And by that, I mean, it's not looking good for the receipts that are being thrown out there as to how far and deep and wide this New York Times smear campaign was coordinated by Blake Lively's people. So I'm going to get into all that. Also, this morning, I made a video about Nick Viall. He's a podcaster. In fact, he's one of the biggest cultural, like society and culture charting podcasters out there. So I made this video saying, hey guys, pushing back because he's still sharing a lot of outdated information. And I want to thank everyone for all of the support coming in. You guys have really been flooding us with subscribers. So he's at 200,000 subscribers. We're not even at 100,000. Oh, look at that. It's spiking right now. As we get new attention to the channel, thank you in advance for helping us get to 100,000 subscribers. When we get to 99,900 subscribers, I'll be going live and you can help me ring that in. We'll pop some champagne or apple vinegar, whatever the hell you're drinking out there. And we will celebrate with a cold brew and kind of continue covering this case, but on a more of a long form. So as that ticker comes up, will it be today, tomorrow, Friday? Who knows? But I want to thank you guys in advance. Also, and lastly, with the promotions, Nick's podcast is successful because it's in the top 50 on society and culture. That's the main charting page where everyone sees when they go check out new podcasts. Ours is in the top 100 to 150, which is not where people go to see podcasts. So I'm going to post a link in the comment section to the Rush Hour podcast. It's twice a day, every morning and every afternoon. On the weekends, we have longer form conversations. This weekend, I've got an anxious attachment specialist here to talk to us about our childhood trauma. All good things. And by the way, Blake Lively will be in that conversation because I'm recognizing a lot of anxiety between her and Ryan. Anxiety usually comes out when you want to control things you can't control, like who's directing the movie. So either way, it's going to be a fantastic conversation. To get that, you can just scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description. If enough people subscribe to the podcast, we'll probably get featured in the top 50 page. And wouldn't it be nice to be right next to the big dogs as the little David versus Goliath? All right, so, oh, look at that. It just keeps ticking up. I can't even stop it. So thanks in advance, guys. So, yes. We made this video 1 week ago. It went super viral. Proof smear was planned. And this TikToker, and by the way, she's also got a YouTube and an Instagram. I'll link that below. She was doing the work no one else was doing, which was going onto the New York Times page and searching the metadata of the photos. Metadata is the information. Look, I'll pull up a photo right now. It's the information that you get. There's a video I just took of my baby, right? That's a nice video of my baby learning how to stand, right? So if you click these dots here, the metadata is all the information behind the scenes. It's what you can find out about a photo, and you click on it and it'll say things like the time the photo was taken, the time it was uploaded, the codec, the aspect ratio, all of the things that is a digital stamp on that image. Now, what we have right here is the realization 1 week ago, and it gets better. So hold on. The realization that while the article came out December 20th, 21st, the photos, including Justin Baldoni, were already uploaded for that article on they were literally labeled December 15th, December 16th, 2024. So that's where we leave you. And now we're going to get into several clips. One here by Gucci Pooj. Again, go give her some love. Let her know you saw her here on our YouTube channel. Here's what she had to say about the fact that it actually goes way further back. And then after this, I'm going to share another video about the metadata. See, this is the thing with the internet. Once you start looking, a lot of nerds out there, we love our nerds, start doing the dirty work and doing things we don't know about. They're the person behind the desk who makes everyone else look good. And here's what they discovered. All right, here we go. Let me play this. Why don't we turn the mute off?
Complaint by the 10th of December. I know I just got done showing you guys how they probably had it by the 16th of December. I have more timestamps for you. What can I do? Beautiful and anonymous genius DM'd me and said,
by the way, beautiful anonymous genius. Can we get that on a t-shirt? Unbelievable.
Hey, go search this. And I was like, okay. We are looking at a search on the search engine that starts with the letter G. I'm not going to say it because your little devices will activate. And if you
so somebody gives her this URL. She would have had no idea how to find this. And this is the beauty of the internet when you start covering something. As you guys might not know this, but real quick, I was sort of pushed around by a quote unquote journalist named Chase Jones, who turns out to be a fake person. They claim to be a black journalist and they were trying to get in contact with me to smear someone else. It turns out it wasn't a black journalist. It was a white Catholic lady from Scottsdale, Arizona. And I was able to find that out in part because an insider at GoDaddy was able to cross-reference the billing information that would have normally been completely illegal, but because we had an insider, we got through the passwords with a beautiful genius. All of that to say, once you start looking and once you go viral enough, the webs of people willing to help out quickly emerge. So this could have been a tech person at New York Times. It could have just been anybody, but it could have been someone who knew what to look for that was like, you know what? Privately, I'm going to shuffle this information to the good guys.
You type site and a colon at the beginning of a search, it makes it into a search query. That tells it, hey, only return search results from this specific domain. Any word that's inside this document will work here. You can do Wayfair, Lively, Heath, whatever, and it will return this search result page. Now, I'm going to explain this in a way that's going to piss off some technical people, so I don't know, get over it. Tell me how it works. I don't know. My understanding is the internet's little crawl.
I love this lady. Protect this lady. This is great.
Crawlers go around, and at some point they found this page, this exact URL here, and they said, okay, on December 10th, we found this page. Here's a search result for it.
Now, why this is important is you can delete something off the internet, but like she said, there are machines that go and capture previous versions of things. That's why in cases where a lawyer will delete something from their blog because it makes them look creepy, it's like, we still know that existed. So be careful what you post out there.
Now you can find it too. Cached this information. This is all to the best of my knowledge, alleged, whatever. I'm telling you what I know. You interpret it how you want. If you click through this link, it of course takes you to the complaint. And if you download and open the complaint and look at the metadata attached to the PDF itself, fascinatingly, it's been wiped clean and it's been updated time-wise to about 10 minutes before the New York Times article was released to the public. So,
why was it wiped clean? What were they hiding? We'll never know. Or will we?
I think that they had an older version of the complaint, or at least one that didn't have this updated metadata with this timestamp. My theory is right before publishing, they just went ahead and they replaced the document with a document with the same exact file name. This file name here, the 4410B1D9, whatever. Instead of creating a new link and relinking it to the article, they just replaced the document itself, which didn't clear the search engine cached history. Does that make any sense? Googe, why do you care? Once again, this is not super shocking to most people who are aware of how long it takes to do these larger pieces. I think it's likely that they had it for weeks, some version of the complaint for weeks. And researched pieces like this, it takes a long time, okay? The thing that makes it important is because Blake Lively's team is alleging that Baldoni's team released this information to the media first. Specifically in their letter to the judge here, Blake Lively's
Again, it's like, Yeah, it's obvious that Blake Lively's team coordinated with the New York Times. That's obvious. Like, they didn't just wake up one day and go, let's see if there's any lawsuits coming out. Like, this happens. We've seen it. A lawyer will say, hey, go find this case number, or they'll flat out give it to somebody. But what's interesting here is that New York Times never gave Justin Baldoni the appropriate amount of time to respond. I mean, honestly, he probably could have needed at least 72 hours. Either way, they gave him 12 hours, but they gave it to him like starting into the evening, and then the next morning they took 2 hours off of that, and they ended up going without having a statement. So the shots were being fired, and then they can say, well, we reached out for comment, no comment yet. It's like, well, yeah, so they're going to have to litigate this in the court of public opinion. And again, that's what Blake has accused them of doing, is like, oh, we need a gag order. And it's like, we're just catching up to responding to everything you said. And I'm going to she's going to read it for you in a second, but this just shows where Blake's side says, and this is what's so funny. They wrote this on January 24th, okay? I think my video came out the same day. So Blake's side was arguing in court that, hey, we didn't share this with the New York Times. The other side must have, having no idea that Gucci Pooj over here and her team of deplorable investigative journalists, whom we love, her beautiful geniuses, the ragtag team of beautiful geniuses, all came together and were able to snuff this out. And they're like, whoops, sorry, we blamed it on the other guy, but now we have irrefutable evidence that they, of course, had this thing a week earlier. And now the belief that actually it was probably existing in October. I don't even know from a technical standpoint how Blake's side could argue, or the New York Times could argue, that they weren't working on this in October.
Team says the argument that Blake Lively's team started it is misleading, and it ignores the reality that the effects that the Wayfair parties claim to suffer as a result of these reported facts and filed allegations were on information and belief initiated by the manner in which Baldoni's team leaked the complaint to the tabloid media. I also do think it's interesting they say tabloid media as if it's an excuse, because they're going to say, well, TMZ is a tabloid media and NYT is not. I don't know if that was, I don't know. But yes, this is the allegation that Baldoni's team essentially leaked it first and therefore caused the problem. Okay, that's all the information I have. If I'm totally off base on the technical stuff, somebody tell me. Love you guys.
And by the way, there is such a thirst. I wasn't prepared to do this, but I'm going to pull it up right now live. There's such a thirst for this type of content exposing people. We shared, I believe yesterday, that the New York Times has done this before, right? And in doing so, I mean, unbelievable levels of downloads. I mean, look at this. 72,000 views on our last video. Did Ryan try to steal the film rights? This was my interview and discussion with Ari Jacob about how she has dealt with New York Times in the past, sued them for defamation. She ended up having to, I think, drop her lawsuit because of the cost, associated with it. But this idea that there is a sort of a clause that can exist where if you can prove the other person isn't operating in good faith, that you can actually take the project away from them. And that's the idea, is that Blake Lively, working with the New York Times, was creating at least a version of this story. Again, this is a theory, a version of a story where Justin's not fit to even own the rights to this project. So maybe behind the scenes, maybe they had Colleen Hoover, the writer, ready to work with them to take the project away. And it seems like a lot. It seems a little kooky to say, but if you're assuming that Ryan Reynolds and Colleen Hoover are operating in good faith, in assuming that, well, Blake told them that he was doing this, so we believed it, and then they get the publicist who has a bone to pick with Wayfair coming in with those receipts. It's like maybe they thought they had a slam dunk case. As we've seen, there is more nuance to the story. So great work there by Gucci Pooj. And now I'm going to go over to Leanne Newton. She said, I saw the videos going about the metadata of New York Times images in the article that dropped the story about Lively's CRD complaint in the alleged smear campaign. But no one looked at the metadata from the text messages because they were embedded. So I got the metadata, and it shows the text messages were embedded on Halloween, October 31st, 2024, almost 2 months before the CRD was filed. It would have been impossible for Baldoni to have leaked this. My personal opinion, there have been there's been enough of a lengthy, well-coordinated collusion between all involved, and the timing of both Lively CRD and Stephanie Jones' filings right before Christmas was no coincidence. Oh, so they're saying they actually knew. It wasn't that they were preparing the story until December. They were waiting to hit them in the jugular while everybody was off home with their families. Let's have a listen to this video.
So I've just come to check out the metadata theory that everyone's got on.
So they do a right click, and then
This article in the New York Times about the Blake Lively CRD complaint.
And this is like the code, right? This is like, I mean, again, God bless the nerds out there. I mean that with all due respect. I mean, the world runs on the nerds. In a world that's going to be artificial intelligence and everyone not knowing what's real, what's not, and gaslighting and rewriting history right here. And by the way, thank you for the tag. I didn't even realize I was tagged in this, but this is like too good. So they're looking at all the numbers.
And they're right, it is the 16th.
Look at that. Where is the date on it? So that says December 16th, 2024, the image. Let's see what else they have.
Of December 2024, which is several days before the filing. Well, I noticed then, I think on Popcorn Planet, that, or possibly Dave Neal's, that
hey,
they weren't sure how to determine the date of the text messages which have been embedded.
So here are the text messages.
But there is a way to do it.
Right click. Let's see what she's doing. Right click. View, inspect. And then they go to the code. Hold on. This is CSI.
So highlight that, which highlights these text messages. They were embedded into the article on the 31st of October 2024.
Wow.
2 months before the lawsuit,
So, okay, hold on. Metadata. We got it. All right. So they scrub this from the website. So none of this exists as far as like the documents from the past video, and they don't show up again until December. But then the embedded messages that the New York Times had date to October 31st. Now, I guess if I had to cross-examine this, my question would be, is that the date that it went on to New York Times website, or is that the date that it was screen grabbed by the publicist? And again, I'm really not too sure, but this is wild evidence.
CRD complaint was even filed.
Hold on, let me go back a second and hear what she had to say.
Even filed.
Hold on. Let's take this back.
24, nearly 2 months before the lawsuit, before the CRD complaint was even filed. And I'll check some other messages.
Checking more messages. Here she is. Let's see what we got in the background. Doing the Lord's work, really.
Yep. Also the 31st of October. Absolutely no way Justin Baldoni or his team could have leaked this.
Yeah. Well, I think the point is this. I think this is the point. How could Justin Baldoni's team have leaked this if the dates of these text messages were from October? Justin Baldoni's team would have had to leak this in October, right? So anyhow, if I'm missing any part of this, please let me know. But this is real fascinating work. Great job. Well done by all involved here. There's going to be more to this story. If it feels like we're getting into the minutia, we're crossing our T's, we're dotting our I's, that's what they're going to do in the lawsuit. That's what they're going to do in the lawsuit when the Justin Baldoni sues New York Times. In fact, because it's very hard to win a defamation suit, especially against a newspaper. It hasn't been done in decades, probably half a century, right? As far as the New York Times is concerned. This could just be more of a settlement that the New York Times will be paying to Justin. But I don't think he's going to settle with Blake. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think they would take a settlement and an apology from the New York Times. Although it doesn't mean they did anything illegal. But this definitely doesn't look good for Blake's side. Let me know your thoughts. Again, you can hit the subscribe button or you can scan that QR code to subscribe to the podcast, The Rush Hour with Dave Neal. Next video and next podcast coming out, actually it'll drop on the podcast first, will be a discussion about a little bit of evidence that Taylor Swift is backing away from Blake Lively. Wild times indeed. We'll be back with that right after this.